described in my first video, the noexcept or no-fail exception guarantee. Why exception guarantees are important? Because they are contracts between the language designer and the programmer on how the program should behave in case of exceptions. Today, specifically, we are going to look into the no-throw or no-fail exception guarantee, which is the strongest of all the exception guarantees. This exception guarantee says that if a function will not throw an exception, so it would say that a function will either not throw an exception or will not allow one to propagate. Since this guarantee is quite strong, we can enforce it only if one of the following points is valid. So first of all the call function within our noexcept function are also no-fail. So it means that all the function that we call within the scope of the noexcept function will be also noexcept. And even if we have a function that can throw an exception, all the functions are gonna be catched before we exit the scope of our noexcept function. Let's start with an example. In this case, we have 4 functions. One is no-fail violated, no-fail non-violated. Then we have a third function that is no-fail with rethrow, and the fourth one that is no-fail with rethrow. So when we actually throw an exception. So in the first case, we are gonna directly violate the noexcept guarantee. So what the compiler is already telling us is, look, you are trying to throw an exception, but you declared this function noexcept. So please be sure that you know what you are doing. So in this case, what the compiler is gonna do, it's just throwing the exception, and the program is gonna be terminated because the programmer, in this case us, violated the contract. So it means that this, in this case, is creating a SIG-SAB signal. So the program crashed. In the second case, we have no-fail non-violated function, and this function we are gonna throw an exception, a runtime error, but we catch the exception within our within our scope. So what is happening? Like, we are not violating the contract in this case, which means that we are good to go. In the third case, we try and rethrow an exception. Like if we go in the assembly here, in no-fail with rethrow, like we see that there is a call to this rethrow method in CXA, some function actually, and in this case also we are gonna violate our exception guarantee. So we are still violating the contract because we are rethrowing an exception, and this exception is escaping the scope of the noexcept function. The last one is the no-fail with the rethrow. Actually, we are throwing an exception again in this case. In this case, we are just throwing 1, 2, 3, and still in this case, we are gonna safely escape like catching the exception before escaping to the function, before returning from the function. There are few things in C++ that are noexcept by default. One are destructors, and destructors are noexcept because we cannot trace exception due to how the stack unwinding works. Maybe in one of the next videos we can dig more into how exactly stack unwinding works, and why we cannot, when we clean up the stack, for instance calling the destructors, we cannot throw exception in this case. Another case is move constructor. So if we are, for instance, swapping pointers in move constructors, we don't want to fail in the middle of this. So that's why we need to provide the strongest exception guarantee. And there are also like defaulted special member functions and also the allocation functions, because we don't want to throw other exception while we deallocate. Let's take a closer look to the noexcept qualifier. The noexcept specifier specifies whether a function could throw an exception or not. So, and as you can see here in the syntax, we have, especially these first two point of the syntax, we have an expression. Like in the first case, noexcept means noexcept true. In the second case, noexcept can take an exception and can be either true, it's a boolean, can be either true or false. Let's see another example. In this case, we have two functions, one no true, because we are saying that we wanted noexcept, so we don't want to, we are providing strongest guarantee. Another one is the throw function, in which we don't provide this except, noexcept. The third case, we have a lambda that is noexcept, and the fourth case, we have a lambda that throws, can throw. So if, and in the fifth case, just to like double check that the destructors are noexcept by default, we have also a simple class with a destructor. So as you can see in the first case, like we have the no throw function is declared noexcept, so we have a noexcept true. In second case, we are throwing an exception and it's noexcept false. Third case, we have a lambda no true that is a lambda that is noexcept, and also is going to be noexcept true and false, as you can imagine. And also our destructor is going to be noexcept true. I hope that you learned something in this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.